Welcome back to the iJupiter Podcast Live. This week we have on Mr. Marcus Ellis. He is the representative of the North American Dogman Project, Mississippi. I've had this gentleman on the channel 2 other times. Initially, I wanted him to come on and talk about the mysterious black box that he found in the forest or in the wildlife protection area or management area, better said, in Mississippi. And we ended up going into his Bigfoot and Dogman stories and the reason why he decided to become a member. He was also a member of MUFON, I believe. And I always wanted him to come on live so you guys get to meet him and we can ask him questions together. I want to, represent him the best way I can possible and promote him the best way I can possible. He's an incredible person, and I would like to say that he's actually kind of like a friend of mine. We all, we write one another all the time, and he's just fantastic. So if you keep coming back to the channel, please do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and repost the channel. You can support the channel by becoming a member. You can go over on all my social medias and go ahead and become a member over there and follow me in whatever I do. Every Tuesday I have a regular show, which Marcus was on twice, and that comes out in the afternoons on Tuesday around 3:30 my time, and every Friday at this time, which is 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you guys can come out like this and hang out and talk with us and everything like that. If you have any stories or anything you'd like to share with me, please leave me an email. Hit me up over my email. It is the Eye of Jupiter Podcast at gmail.com. One more time, the Eye of Jupiter Podcast at gmail.com, and I will have you on the show. So with all that out of the way, let's welcome to the show one Mr. Marcus Ellis.
Hey, brother, what's going on, man?
It's been a minute, man. I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I can't fuss none. I mean, nobody's going to listen to me fuss, so I'll just keep it to myself. But it's better than I deserve. I'll say it like that.
Well, you're doing well. You're feeling well. How's the summer been for you?
Hot. I mean, like everywhere, it's Mississippi. Southern heat is usually a creature unto itself. But from what I'm seeing of most of the country, it looks like we're sharing that heat with everybody. Hey, Pamela. So it's just hot all over. We've actually had a break this week. Things have been like 90s, so that's not bad for us. But the winning streak endeth next week. The heat comes back, and it's going to be another scorcher.
Yeah, dude. I mean, for me, I'm down here on the Yucatan, so it's always hot. And it's the jungle, and so for me it's actually the slightly cooler period. For us it's April, May, and June. It's just scorching hot, dry as a popcorn fart. And now we get the nice heat, which is about 92, 93 every day instead of 110, but we get the nice 100% humidity and rain in the afternoons. So yeah, I think both of us are enjoying our summer.
I'm actually looking forward to a cool down because I miss getting out in the field. I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy, and it's just so hot and dangerous out there right now. Hey, James, I just don't want to take no chances. A couple of years back, might have been last year, after I had the Bigfoot sighting in one of the local refuges here. I took MK Davis, my buddy MK, and one of his friends out there to show them where this thing happened. And, I'm thinking, MK's thinking we're 10 foot tall. We're bulletproof. We're the only thing that can hurt us is kryptonite. We're Superman. And we got proven wrong real quick. We both got out there and got overheated. Like I say, it was August. And that taught me a valuable lesson. I was like, as badly as I want to get out in the field and research and investigate my research areas, I'm just going to have to wait and be smart, wait till it cools off.
Maybe end of September, October, maybe the leaves come down a little bit. Maybe it's still wet a little bit, so you're not making so much noise,
Well, yeah, that absolutely helps too. I mean, when you lose foliage, it gives you a better eyeball on what you're looking at, what may be trying to sneak up on you, and
Yeah.
what you. So it's kind of it can go both ways. It can work to your advantage. It can work to their advantage. I think most of the time it
True.
works to their advantage. They seem to be a couple of steps in front of us when you're dealing with
Oh,
Sasquatch and Dogman
yeah.
and
I
the
was just talking
paranormal.
to Mel Scahan again yesterday. I had him on for a regular show episode, and they're actually starting to. He's been having sightings for last 25, 30 years, being like a forest like industry guy who protects land and fire breaks and those kind of things, marking data points. And he started having contact with them. So within the last like year, he's starting to get like the mind speak. He's starting to feel them more. He said he was actually felt like he was being scanned with two other gentlemen who's never been out there before. And they are the masters of their domain, and we're just in their living room.
Yeah, the one thing I took away from, I recently got into the work of Scott Carpenter, and
Okay,
reading
yes.
his book, and of course now we know that poor Scott's passed on,
Yes.
but in a lot of his videos and his books, he talks about the mind speak, and it gave me a whole perspective on it, and now I kind of feel like I almost feel like sometimes if you get an overabundance of it, that it might very well be dangerous. I think
Possibly,
that's
yeah.
what Scott was. That's what Scott was, speaking about and leaning towards. And I've never had mind speak. Now I've had. How do I say this? I'll just be blunt. I'm a Christian, and I know for a fact I've had the voice of discernment, God, whatever. I have definitely had that voice pop up in my head and tell me, hey, you need to, literally, you need to turn around and go home. I mean, I've
Wow.
had things like that. And, matter of fact, it was the same place where I saw the Sasquatch crossing the road behind me, and I got bluff charged. Because this area, this is a different wildlife management area. The Sasquatch that are there, I've said before and I'll say it again, I don't trust them. You have to really watch these creatures in this particular area because they're not nice, they're not real friendly, and whenever I go into this particular research area, I make double sure that I'm prepared. I've had equipment issues, Sky Lake, and then this place here is the only two places I've ever had equipment malfunctions. And
Wow.
again, I think when you get an overabundance of mind speak, it may not be good for the human body. Now, that's just me. That's my thoughts. So I hope your friend is being real cautious and careful.
He's a good guy, man. He's a good guy. He's a Native American in the Northeast
Okay,
and
good.
Northwest. Yes, and he's been doing it for a very long time. And he said it's not a lot. It just comes once in a while. One time he was with somebody and she was showing him an area where she was having some activity, and the thing said, you need to go up to her and give her a hug and say thank you for bringing you there. And then she went up and he said, I got to hug you. They said to do it. She's like, okay. And yeah. And then they were like, okay. And they were fine. And then they left. But it's been other times too, where, he feels, like kind of the zap feeling, but he says it's more like you're being scanned. Mm-hmm. And the closer you get to an area, if they don't want you there, to get more intense. And then he backs away.
Oh yeah.
And he leaves.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so, and that's the thing. What they're 9 times out of 10, that's what they're doing. They're letting you know, hey, you're too close. Like what happened with me. Again, I was really thinking about this hard today. I was listening to another podcast about an episode that an encounter that happened here in Mississippi.
Yes, I've
These two
heard. Is that
gentlemen.
yes, I heard that one. I know exactly which one you're talking
Yeah,
about.
where they were like
They had to get
the
on top of the
predator
Beaver
type
Dam.
thing.
You had to get on top of the Beaver Dam.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
that's it.
yes, yeah, that's
That's
it.
it. Um, so it got me to thinking, because they could not see this creature, and the host was telling about an episode where they were filming a documentary, and they
Yeah,
were
Tony
in
Merkel.
Dogman territory. Yeah, Tony Merkel, amazing guy. Um, so it dawned on me when my episode happened, because I've never really put a whole lot of thought into this, but it's the God's honest truth. Right before I turned around and I caught this Sasquatch crossing the trail behind me, I got bluff charged. And, I've got the video up on my YouTube channel of me on the trail, and I'm talking, I'm just kind of documenting to the camera what's going on. This event happens, and I wheel around, and I'm looking right across the creek where this commotion, this loud commotion, and this feeling, hit the back of my neck.
Wow.
And I turn around, and it's nothing there. I mean, it's nothing there. And I can see up into the woods. I mean, it's nothing. And that's what Tony was talking about, how they got charged, and they're sitting there looking right where this charge is originating from, and they can't see anything either. And these two guys here in Mississippi, they're hearing and witnessing these limbs cracking and popping and all, and they can't see anything either. And it dawned on me, Marcus, you've never really spent a whole lot of time thinking about that. You've always kind of focused on Mr. Creepy coming across the back of the trail, and why not? I mean, when you turn around and you catch one of them slipping across the trail, you don't know if he's trying to get close to you or he's just trying to get to his buddy across the pond or the creek. So the bluff charge has never been out of my mind, but to really focus on that charge, that feeling of something literally just rushing up behind you, and then you turning, and again, I've got a freaking camera in my hand, and I'm turning around, and there's nothing there. It would have been different if there had just been a lot of foliage and brush over there in front of me. I'm looking all the way up into the woods. Wow. There's nothing there. So
James R. Hood. I'm sorry, Marcus. James R. Hood said he actually doesn't live that far from that area too. With he said he actually went there today. He went there to that place today. We're talking about it, and James went there today.
Well, let me tell you this. It's funny that James did that.
He's the man.
My best friend. he is the man. No question about it. He's got James. Some kahunas.
Yes, he does.
I got to hand James that. But my best friend, the guy who says, I will not go out into the woods with you. I will not go into the woods dog manning or Bigfooting with you. I'm gonna let you do it. You go get disappeared, or you get snatched up by the Bigfoot. I'm not going with you. What does he do 2 days ago? He goes to the place where this happened too. So I hate to tell James, but my buddy beat you to it. But my friend told me, and of course I'd be interested. James is going boots on the ground. My buddy just got up on the bridge and stopped. My buddy just went to the gas station, and he told me, he said there was this old dude out there pumping gas, and he just goes up to the old dude and he goes, "Hey, anything weird ever happen around here?" "No, ain't nothing ever happened around here. Nothing goes on around here." And I'm like, yeah, great dude. Yeah. I mean, you really know how to.
Saying, guys, you have to be careful out there.
Break them down, dude. Get them to talk.
Marcus, man, for people who don't know, once again, who you are, do me a favor, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the reason why you came on today, my friend.
Okay. Well, I'm Marcus Ellis, and as you pointed out, I am the North American Dogman Project representative for the state of Mississippi. I've been in that role for about heading on 3 months now. An outstanding organization, and you should look us up on the internet, www.NorthAmericanDogmanProject.com. We have a lot of ongoing cases that we're looking into and checking into. A lot of data, a lot of case files and things from the past. We have a really hot case right now that we're working on.
Okay.
Like I say, it's right there on the front page, and you can click on that, and it'll take you to the videos of the investigation that's ongoing that Jody Cook and some of the others are working on. Beyond that, I got into the cryptid field probably 8 years ago. I had an episode happen here on my property, and I reached out to who was an old friend, and I didn't realize at the time what he was doing in his spare time, but that was MK Davis, and I got a hold of MK, and he took me under his wing, and he started teaching me and training me and taking me to all these places. And one of the first places he took me to two places right off top of the bat. The first place he took me to, I think it was my very first outing with him, he took me to the Honey Island Swamp Monster area. So I got to see Harlan Ford's old camp, and I got to tromp around where Harlan, filmed the Sasquatch down there. And while we were there, by the way, something was tailing us, and we found tree breaks and all that. But the second place he took me were the 3 Indian mounds that we're going to talk about tonight that we call Hell's Gate. But after that, MK just took me in. He taught me and trained me. And I had been looking into this stuff ever since I was a teenager. Actually, since I was a preteen. I just soaked every book, magazine, TV show. My preachers and pastors, I would corner them up and hit them up for knowledge. And when the abduction phenomena kind of busted open with Whitley Strieber and Bud Hopkins and Mac and all those guys, I really got into that. And so I brought that on into the future with what MK was teaching me and showing me. When COVID hit, I had just joined MUFON, and with everybody on lockdown and you're not able to get out, it really throwed a wrench into me getting out with MK, because I didn't want to get him sick, and of course he didn't want to get me sick. And I started a new job, and that complicated things. But anyway, I joined up with MUFON, and I became a certified field investigator. And I investigated UFOs with them for about 3 years, and then I joined up with their alien abduction team. And for about a year and a half, I helped them with alien abductions, talking with abductees and experiencers. Yes. And learned a lot from that. Well, again, the job was kind of taking a toll on me, and I had too many irons in the fire, and I stepped away from MUFON, by my own design. They're awesome, they're great, and I wouldn't take $1 million for the training and what I learned, and a lot of good people, a lot of good friends, back there.
Very cool.
But I miss getting out into the field. So I just kind of rededicated myself to the cryptid field. I'm like, I'm going to get off into the cryptid thing. And of course, Bigfoot is always, that's where I started. That's where MK started me. And, but I began hearing more and more about Dogman. And that just absolutely fascinated the mess out of me. And the more I looked into it, the more questions I was coming, into contact with. But as time has gone by, more and more about the Dogman has come to light. And look, the thing about Dogman, I noticed this when MK was teaching me and training me. We would talk to other Bigfoot investigators, and they would just flat out tell you, I'll say it like this, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to others. If you have your theory, that's fine. It's America. Believe what you want. I believe buddy. What I want. But when you you kind of slam your hands down on the table and you go, this is the answer, that is what this is. I mean, I have a little problem with that, because
more than a little problem. That's ridiculous.
None of us know. None of us really know what exactly it is we're dealing with here, and so many Bigfoot investigators were going, there's no such thing to Dogman. Dogman is not real. It does not exist, and all of these Dogman reports are nothing but misidentified Bigfoot sightings. And I'm talking with MK, and I'm telling my friends, I'm like, I don't believe that for a second. I just, too many. I mean, we finally break the doors down and we start listening to our Sasquatch witnesses and experiencers and friends that are seeing and bumping this thing. So, we don't call them liars, and we don't slam what they say they saw, face down into the dirt. So why are we doing this to Dogman witnesses? And I just realized there was a lot more to it. Well, thank goodness for Linda Godfrey. She's kind of the godmother of Dogman research. When she started putting out her books, that level of credibility started really rising up. And it's done nothing but, in my opinion, get a lot better. And when you look at what Jody Cook and his team has done with the North American Dogman Project, I mean, they've got a site and they've got a network that is MUFON-ish. I mean, it's huge and it's growing, and it's because the sightings are growing. So when again, I started rededicating myself to getting out in the field, and again, boots on the ground, getting out there. I just kind of decided, you know what? I really want to focus on Dogman. I really kind of want to, make that kind of my little niche, because, I hope MK or nobody else takes me wrong when I say this, because I don't mean it this way. I mean it as a compliment. If somebody thinks about Bigfoot in Mississippi, one of the first guys they're going to go to MK, and that's rightly so and well deserved.
That's fine, yeah.
And it's perfectly fine. I mean, I can't hold a candle to what MK knows about Bigfoot and giants and stuff like that. But I've learned a lot from him, and I was just thinking, why don't again, and again, I'm not trying to be egotistical or brag. I don't mean it the way this is going to sound, but I was just thinking to myself, why don't you kind of focus on Dogman? Why don't you kind of maybe be the Dogman guy? And I just started reaching out to different Dogman investigators, and one thing led to another. I wound up speaking with Vic Cundiff at, Dogman Encounters Radio. Good guy, just a really sweet guy. And I was already kind of eyeballing the NADP, and he steered me right into a couple of the North American Dogman Project guys. Literally, hey, call this guy. I talked to one guy. I didn't even realize he was NADP, and we didn't talk about an hour.
Sounds like a police department.
And he goes,
sounds like a North Dakota Police Department.
Right? Yeah.
Northern Alabama.
Jody Cook come up with a Jody Cook come up with a mouthful there. It sounds real, and of course it is. It's very professional. But I was just like talking with this guy, and he goes, "Well, I'm North American Dogman Project, right?" And I'm like, "No," had no idea. And he goes, "We need to get you on board." And I'm like, "Sign me up." Where do I sign?
Just from talking with you, Marcus, I can see. I mean, like, I feel every time I'm on the show with you, I feel very relaxed, and I feel like as if I were to have something that would happen to me like that, which I haven't, good or bad, doesn't matter, that I feel that you're the type of person I can talk to about that. And that's what I think is your strength. You're a very good listener. You seem to be very balanced. You have a good point of view. You're just easy to get along with and talk to. And that's why, you've been on the show now the third time in a few months. And it's always been a pleasure to talk to you. So I think Jody made a good choice in choosing you, my friend.
Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate that, and I will throw that. I will throw every word you just said back to you, because I'm sure you. There's no doubt in my mind you're getting reports. You're talking to eyewitnesses who are experiencing things, and you come across the exact same way.
Thank you.
I feel like I could tell you anything. I have an old saying that I always throw at guys. I'd trust you with my daughter and my checkbook. That's just the way I feel about
it. That's an interesting one.
I
don't think I'd go that far with anybody. Maybe my daughter, but definitely not the checkbook.
Not
my daughter,
the checkbook.
I can feel you out, but you're not going to get the checkbook.
Well, I don't have big balances in my checkbooks. That's why I'm not afraid to give it to you.
A couple $100, no big deal. I got you.
But it's incredible. that you said something very important a little while ago. Now that I'm an experiencer, now that I have seen these things, now that I have experienced the myriad of things that I have experienced out in the field, I can just imagine how I would feel if somebody looked at me and I told them something that happened to me and they laughed in my face, or they called me a liar, or they said that, I'm pushing creepy pasta or something like that. I know how I'd feel. That can't feel good. So it was something that, number one, that's just the way my mom and dad raised me. They raised me to be courteous, respectful, and to listen to people and to help people. That's what I got, from Mom and Pop Ellis. And then, coming up through the retail world, that's where I cut my teeth. You have to deal with people. You deal with people every single day, and you got to help people, and you got to listen to the complaints, and you got to listen to the good news. And then when you really get into the nuts and bolts of it, that was something that I watched real close when MK would be interviewing people, and he would have me tag along. He was always jovial, and he was always warm, and he was always sympathetic, and he always listened. And I'm like, okay,
how would you
chalk that down? That's what you want to put in your toolbox.
Yeah. Just the mere fact that I watched the whole thing about him trying to get the best version of the Patterson-Gimlin film, that he was able to, slowly through time building relationships, years. And he was actually met, Roger Patterson's wife, and was able to go in some crawl space or garage or something and actually get the best version. It's not the original, but the best version he had. And in that version, he was able to get that picture to get. So when you're going to do, MK Davis is amazing. I agree, magical. And if you're going to do these kind of things and people are having these things, they have no one to talk to. They have nowhere to turn. There's no doctor you can go to. There's nobody. Even a biologist who's found a duck-billed platypus or some, like the white ivory-billed woodpecker in Mississippi too, as well. That's also in Mississippi, if I remember right. In parts, they're going to look at you, like you're like, what are you talking about? Those kind of things don't exist. So I think the way you do things lends itself to the credit, your word of mouth, and like, oh yeah, that. I had a gentleman on. We're talking about different points of view. You being a Christian, for example, he's a young Earth creationist, and for me that's odd. I don't know much about that. He's well versed in the Bible, and he was telling me about pterodactyls in northern Texas. And you're like, I've seen this thing when I was 12 years old, man, and I don't know how to explain it other than my worldview. And they kind of seem to line up. So you just. Whether I agree with him or not on his worldview or my beliefs or my religious upbringings or not, I still need to be available for somebody to come and talk. And I think I'm building that, where people who don't know me will actually call into the show and say, I watched your show. I enjoy what you do. You make it lighthearted, but you're also mean. You're not mean. you're what you say. You have meaning behind what you say, and I want to share this with you. It's incredibly important. It's incredibly important.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And again, before I started helping MUFON in the alien abduction section, again, I had read, all the classic literature. I'd read, John Mack's book. I had read, Bud Hopkins stuff. I'd read Whitley Strieber's. And gosh, I can't think of the other gentleman's name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Oh, good grief. The white-haired gentleman. Fiddle. I can't think of his name. Right on the tip of my tongue. But my point is, when you listen to some of the things that alien abductees, and I'm gonna say it like this: thank goodness I never talked to an alien abductee who went through that horror and terror that some of these poor people went through. I mean, it destroyed lives. I mean, it just ripped people down to nothing, and it completely shattered, everything around them, and to have people make jokes about it, it when MUFON allowed me to be a part of that, again, I wouldn't have done it. No way. I wouldn't have been that idiot anyhow. But I just knew, Marcus, you have got to be ready. You've got to be ready for if you do bump into that person. And again, I talked to a lot of experiencers, a lot of people that I wound up talking with about that. It's funny. I would get a lot of phone calls and reports from Louisiana, and a lot of it would be from around the New Orleans area. New Orleans is so haunted, it's absolutely pathetic. I mean, but I would get a lot of people, well, this is going on in my house, and do you think it's aliens? And we would talk on, and I'm like, I think I can put you at ease that you're not dealing with an alien deal. You're probably dealing with something a little more spiritual. Oh, thank God. And I would like, yeah, you really need to be thanking God, because that's not something I'd wish off on nobody.
Right. Yeah, man. Kudos to you, buddy. I really, being a person who hasn't experienced it myself, and knowing, like, for example, what anxiety is and other things in my life where people wouldn't listen to me. It's good that someone did. And eventually, you found people who dealt with that as well. And you go, oh, okay, I'm not going completely insane. It happens sometimes. So yeah, I understand. I really do. I have a lot of love and respect for people to do that. Do me a favor, Marcus. Let's get into that second place. I think you called it Hell's Gate. Tell me a little bit about what you said you want to come on and share some encounters. Let's go ahead and do that, my friend.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of the back history on Hell's Gate. When MK first took me to this place, it's way out in the country, and I'm not going to give the exact location, because people live there. There's people in the vicinity. I hate to even really kind of bring up. I'm really going to confuse you, but okay. I really kind of hate to bring up the gates of hell. There's basically two locations, and I'll tell you the story about that as we move along here. But Hell's Gate was what MK referred to this area where these three Indian mounds are at. And he took me out there. The first time it was during the daytime. And I mean, the first time I'm there, I find a huge impression. Now, I didn't see toes, but if it was a boot print, I mean, this was a big dude. I mean, this was a big guy. So right off top of the bat, I'm thinking, okay, there's something odd here. But here's the thing about Hell's Gate. 3 Indian mounds. The big, huge one, the main one is right by the river. There's 2 more right across the road and they kind of form a triangle. It's three of them. Now, the big one, the main one, this is no joke. I have never had a good experience at that main mound. Never.
Wow.
And I don't even know how many times I've been out there. I mean, probably close to 100. Never had a good experience there. Now, the two other Indian mounds, I go hiking and walking around those. They're just a ooch smaller. I mean, they're still huge, but never had a bad day. I never had a bad experience. Now, while I'm over there at the two smaller mounds, I've heard things across the road going on that would absolutely send a chill down your spine. Okay. I've heard voices over there. I've heard mumbling, like two things chitter-chattering and mumbling at each other.
Wow.
And now at the two mounds, again, this is what kind of really fueled my Dogman desire to hook up with the NADP and look into Dogman. About 2 years ago, I went hiking around the two smaller mounds. Hadn't been too long, rained and dried up. And I found canine prints out there. They were 5.5 inches long and 5 inches wide. Now, if that's
Good
a dog,
Lord.
That's a big dog. And if you look that up on Google and stuff like that, you're off into wolf territory. Now, there are supposedly red wolves that have been reintroduced back in Mississippi. So, do I know that was a Dogman print or prints? I got multiple photographs of these tracks. I measured them. I don't know, but a lot of the talk about Dogman is Dogman and Bigfoot. They hang out around Indian mounds. There's a connection there between these
cemeteries.
beings.
It's the same thing.
Yes,
it's a burial area. It's a
burial ground. And Bigfoot and Dogman. I think Dogman. They have come up right beside us. They came up beside the first Native American Indians that were in and on this continent. Sasquatch and Dogman have been watching us for probably hundreds, thousands of years. So these creatures know that these places, they were important to these peoples from way back. So maybe I need to hang out here. Maybe I need to protect this area. Who's to say? And I think there's good spirits and good activity around these mounds. And as I'm going to tell you, at Hell's Gate, there's bad stuff. And I think on that main mound, there's a lot of bad stuff. So anyway, that was my introduction to what we refer to as Hell's Gate. Now, as years went by, I really started trying to dig and find out more about Hell's Gate, the gates of hell. Which one is it? What do we call this? Well,
yeah, okay.
I finally figured it out. There was, I think, I'm not sure about my time frame, so your viewers are going to have to forgive me here. But way back, I'm going to say maybe late 70s, early 80s, there was a paranormal investigator. Her name was Janice Rayleigh. And I tried to get a hold of Janice because I wanted to do a documentary about what she saw and what me and MK were experiencing at these mounds. But in listening to a segment that Janice did, what happened was she went out there and this farmer, somehow or another, she found out that this was a really haunted, supernatural, paranormal hotspot. She met a farmer. The farmer said, "You go over there. I'm not going. You're on your own. I'll stay up here. I'll watch you, but I'm not going over there." She goes over to the spot where the farmer points out, and she gets the bejesus scared out of her.
Okay.
When she left, after seeing, hearing, and smelling the things she saw, she heard shrieks and hollers and cries. She smelled something that smelled like, dead, rotten flesh. She saw the water churning with this fluorescent green
Oh my God.
hue to it, and it freaks you. Orbs, and I mean, most of your ghost hunters and ghostbusters, they're pretty stout of heart. They're pretty tough people. And this freaked her out so bad, she swore. She said, I'll never go back. Well, the local television station, WJTV, got to give them props. They convinced her to come back. And I'm not sure how many years it was. It might have been 15, 20 years later. I forget. But they convinced her, hey, let's go back. Let's go back to this place and let's see what happens. So they took a film crew and their guy that worked for the TV station. He loved that sort of stuff, that spooky stuff. So they hook back up with Janice. They all go back. And the minute they get there, equipment drainage, battery drainage, malfunction of microphones, they start seeing orbs. They start hearing weird noises. They've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And, of course, Janice hung in there with them, and they all come away from it. And it was you can find that on the internet too. By the way, I think if you look up Gates of Hell, Satarsha, Mississippi, you're going to find a website that will take you to. I think it's field reports from Yazoo County or something like that. And it will give you the whole story of Janice Rayleigh's return to the Gates of Hell. But now, in the meantime, I'm going out to Hell's Gate, the Indian Mounds, both by myself, and I'm going with MK. MK's going by himself. And together and separately, we're having some crazy stuff happen there. But in the back of my mind, something is telling me this ain't right. Something's wrong here. And I start to question Gates of Hell, Hell's Gate. Are we talking about two different places? Well, my buddy, the one who beat James Hood to the spooky place where the Predator thing was walking around the other day. Poor James. I'm sorry, James.
It wasn't a race. It wasn't a race.
I'll tell my friend. I'll tell my friend to stay out of your Kool-Aid. But but this guy my buddy calls me and he says, Marcus, he said, tell me a little bit more about the Gates of Hell. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what I know. And he said, well, what's this deal about these haunted trees? I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, yeah. He says, they're at somewhere close to the bridge in Satarsha, there's this place where, all this weird spooky stuff happens, and there's supposed to be these trees that are haunted. And they were like, criminals executed and hung from these trees. I said, well, send me what you're talking about. So when I got the information from my buddy, I started looking at it, and I'm like, there's two different places. Me and MK, we're looking at this in reverse. We're looking at it backwards. So I got my buddy to come down. We met up and we rode out there because the bridge in Satarsha is a huge part of the Gates of Hell legend. Supposedly, if you're on the bridge and you're looking down, you can see the green stuff that Janice Rayleigh saw. But I wanted to confirm that, and I wanted to confirm what he was talking about, the trees. I'm like, if I can find these trees, if I can prove that these trees exist, if they're real, if somebody's not making up bogus stuff on the internet, then that's going to be my big clue. So we hop in the car, we ride out there. Again, I'm not going to give specifics because people live there. And I want to be respectful to the people of Satarsha. But we were driving along, and all of a sudden he hollers out, there they are. I found them. There they are. There's the trees. And I slam on brakes, and we're sitting there looking, and we're like, holy cow, it's two different places. We're looking at this in reverse. So a few weeks later, by myself, I went back to where these trees are at. And every inch that I walked, every bit of ground I covered, all of a sudden I felt like you are where Janice Rayleigh was. You're walking in her footsteps, because
Okay.
I knew right then that what me and MK were looking at and what she experienced were two whole different places. Now, I did have one spooky thing happen to me at the gates of hell. And I think it was something Bigfoot. I got screeched and hollered at one morning while I was out there.
That's right,
But
because you
the
only
thing
go
about
during
it
the day.
is,
That's right. You're a day. You're a daytime guy. You don't go out at night. Yeah.
I'm like Blade. I'm a day walker. You know,
Okay.
maybe
Wesley
a big
Snipes.
chicken. I don't know, but yeah, you know, but I found out very quickly on what happened to Janice. No doubt was real, and it happened, and it's a very creepy place. Like I say, I had one thing happen there that really rattled me, and that was the screeching. But
Right.
what has happened at those three mounds blows that totally way out of the water. No comparison. The activity is on a whole different level. You're talking, I'm talking Bigfoot activity. I'm talking more than likely Dogman activity, Chupacabra activity, UFO activity, demonic entities, and residual hauntings. This is like, I call it a mini Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that this is what John Keel and other people refer to as a window area. I mean,
right.
Like I say, the first night that MK took me out there was mind blowing. I mean, it was mind blowing. It's like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I've got a spotlight, and it was winter. I mean, we both had heavy coats on. So we go up on top of the mound, and this mound is real steep, but then it kind of slopes and levels off to the right side. And we're up on the top, and you know, we're just listening, looking, and all of a sudden, right down to our right, and we got this on video and audio, something huge gets thrown and tossed into the water. I mean, you feel the ka-thunk of this, whatever this was, hitting the water in your chest. So what does Genius, Marcus, and MK do? Oh, hey, let's go down here and check this out. You know, we're not going to go the other way. We're going to go check it out. So we go down there. There are no ripples in the water because the floodwaters were up. There were no ripples in the water. There was no mud. There were no critters. And we had been up on the mound long enough that if there were alligators or anything like that, they would have long vamoosed. So something wanted us to know, hey, you're not alone up here.
Holy
and so we come off the mound and we start exploring around the mound. And we kept feeling something hitting us. You know, and I've got a Carhartt coat on, and you know, everybody knows how thick a Carhartt coat, but we're hearing, and MK's got a big coat on too, and we're hearing this little ping, 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 and we figure out it's little small pebbles about the size of your pinky fingernail. We don't know where they're coming from, but they're bouncing off of us. Now, the grass that we were walking beside was probably about 3 foot tall. And after the fact, you know, me and MK, we're talking, and we're like, you know, there could have been a Sasquatch 2 feet away from us, you know, throwing pebbles or stuff at us. We never would have known it.
Right.
So we start to leave, and I've got a spotlight, and at the time I had a camcorder that filmed off of the old discs, the little discs. Very, well, at the time, I guess you'd say it's high tech. And it's pretty archaic now. But MK is in front of me, and I've got a spotlight, and MK's walking up front, and I've got the spotlight going so MK can see where he's walking. And all of a sudden, just out of the blue, a rock comes out of nowhere and hits the light. I mean, it's not a big rock,
But the accuracy.
But I'm filming the accuracy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The next day, me and MK, we're looking at the flashlight. There's a ping on it. I mean, where this rock hit this thing, there's a scratch.
Right.
So we go up on the road and we're standing there, and MK goes, "I'm gonna do a whoop. I'm gonna do a whoop just to see what happens. We got all this stuff going on. Let me do a whoop." So he does a whoop, and when he did that, it busted wide open. I mean, across the river, across the way, we've got screams that start up. We've got howls. We've got whoops. We've got wood knocks.
Whoa.
And at one point, we hear, now we just come off of the main mound. We hear something walking around up on top of the mound, crunching on the leaves and the dead limbs that are up there. So that was my first night of really having some crazy activity there. And like I say, it didn't stop there. I mean, it if anything, it got even more bizarre. I had thought about at one point of filming a documentary about, Hell's Gate, the gates of hell. And I think the next, I'm trying to remember because again, it's been so much, but I think the next thing that really stood out for me was I went out there one morning. I was by myself and I had my camera and I wanted to shoot some footage of the mound. I was hopefully going to use as B-roll. And I'm out there filming and, walking around and stuff. Well, to get to the main mound, excuse me, you have to go down this incline. And when you get down this incline, it levels out. And I'd say probably when it levels out, maybe 15 yards, you're starting to go up the main mound.
Okay.
And so I start walking down the mound or down the incline, and I look over to my right, and there's a dead possum laying there. And I'm like, okay, that's odd. And I had my camera, my digital camera. I was snapping pictures at this point. So I come back up and I stop and I look at that possum. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. This possum did not have not one iota. Now, there might have been a little bit of fat, just scraps of fat. But this possum had been picked bone clean. Every bone was intact. It was not crunched up. It was not mulched up. This skeleton was 100% fresh and it was 100% intact. Whatever had been eaten on this thing had taken, it was like they took their hand and they went to the back side where the tail was, and they pulled the skin, the hide, all the way off, and it was all hanging there in a heap right there. One little strand was holding all that skin right there on the tip end of its nose. Right. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding. So weird. What would have the strength, the technical ability?
Yeah.
I mean, because, a bobcat, a bear,
the dexterity.
It's not going to sit there and pull the skin off. Yeah, the dexterity. And then to be able to sit there and pick the meat off the bones and then leave it laying there. So I'm sitting here going like, wow, I'm off to a great start. So I walk back up to my vehicle and I don't know, I don't know what I went back for, but I went back to my vehicle and I came back down. I'm like, let me go ahead and take some pictures of this possum. This is important. So I'm standing there and I'm taking pictures, and all of a sudden everything got deathly quiet. It's like 9:30 in the morning. It's a beautiful sunshiny day. It's quiet. I'm the only somebody moving around out there, and it just gets deathly quiet. And all of a sudden, from what I perceived to be the backside of the mound, I heard this rhythmic, percussive, metallic ching 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 ching. Oh, like bells. it was like bells, and I'm standing there, and this sound, it's like surround sound. This sound comes out from the backside of the mound. It passes right in front of me, and it goes on around to the other side of the mound, and it stops.
That's incredible.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm grinning like the Cheshire Cat. I'm going like, dude, you just hit the paranormal jackpot. And I'm sitting there patting myself on the back, and I'm thinking, holy cow. And then it dawned on me, I'm like, dude, you need to get the heck out of here. It's time to go. You need to go. So I did. I called MK and told him about it. And
there you go.
He was
real estate agent, the rattle.
Away.
Have you ever listened to things called Icaros? It's if you go to Peru and you do an ayahuasca ceremony, so they'll take out the medicine men from their tribes, their Indian tribes or their Native American tribes, and when you go into this, they call it a plant medicine, and they go, well, how did you guys know to mix the root from this part of the forest and the vines or the leaves from this part of the forest together to make this? And they go, oh, the plants told us. And if you go online and you listen to these Icarus, I got to look it up. There's one in particular where they'll do like a little sing-songy whistle thing, and they have this little rattle that they use, and it does like a and then you hear like, and they like sing you into this thing. And that's the first thing that popped in my head when you said that. I was like, that reminds me of something that I've heard. Like just the way you kind of stated this information to me. I was like, this reminds me of an Icarus, like it's some type of because they don't just build the mounds for nothing. You know what I mean? That's a lot of work. So there's something either special about that place, or that they made special about that place through some type of traditional things that they did to make that place what it is. It's an incredible account, man. An incredible account.
Well, and once I talked to MK about it, I don't know. I think MK might be able to identify the Indians that were there. I don't. I'm 99.9% positive that it predated the Choctaw and the Chickasaw. When we think about Indians,
they call them the mounds. I think they call them the mound builders, all the way up the Mississippi, even into the Ohio River Valley. They call them the mound builders. I don't know if that kind of like separates out different cultures.
And we don't.
Yeah,
it does. It does.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the huge mound at Winterville, which is in Greenville, Mississippi, this thing is 55 feet tall, and this was built by the Plaquemine, in the Mississippian era, as they call it. It predated the Choctaw and the Chickasaw. And
I just climbed up
when you look at Winterville.
I just climbed up a pyramid here in the middle of the rainforest that's 100 feet up in the air, and it's
when you look at
it's like.
Well, this thing is 55 feet tall, and the only thing close to it are the huge mounds in Cahokia. And I personally feel, and there may have been something weird about these Hell's Gate mounds that have something to do with the Nephilim. That's
James was just
I can't
writing
prove that.
James wrote that.
I can't.
Yeah, he wrote that in the slide.
James,
that's interesting that you brought it up. That you brought that up. That's interesting.
I mean, I think something that big, and the state of Mississippi has restored that mound. I mean, it's now got a ceremonial ramp. I mean, you've got to take your hat off to the Mississippi Department of History and Archives. They have spent the money on a beautiful place. They've lovingly restored this mound.
Beautiful.
But when you stand there and look at this thing, you can't help. I'll tell you this real quick, and I'll get back on track. I had a friend of mine. Her and her husband took their granddaughter to Winterville, And this girl's, I think she was 12 years old, very smart young lady. They're standing there in front of this 55-foot tall monstrosity, and they're talking about it. And all of a sudden, the little girl looks up at her grandparents, and she's looking around, and the grandparents go, what are you looking for? And she goes, the hole. Where's the hole? And they're like, the hole? Like, yeah. Where did they get all this dirt? Where's the hole? And they just kind of laughed it off. But I told them, I said, that 12-year-old granddaughter of yours has got a very good head on her shoulders.
Yeah, future
Where did they get the dirt? How did they get the dirt? How did they build? You know, but you know, I mean, that's probably another conversation for another time. But going back to the three mounds, the next thing that happened to me, now this really, really freaked me out. And I think it did several things to my process. It completely tore. I realized that I could not just be a Bigfoot investigator no more. I can't, you know, that's kind of, you know, MK's thing. You know, I just kind of focus on Bigfoot, and that's great. I mean, that's what he needs to do. But when what I'm fixing to tell you happened to me, all those books, all those talking with preachers and the pastors, going to church, reading the Bible, doing all this research, it all come back, and here's what I'm trying to make. I went back out there to do some more work on this documentary, and not a whole bunch happened. I mean, nothing weird happened this particular trip. This was a few weeks after, you know, I refer to it as a residual haunting. It was a few weeks after. So I go out there, and again, I take some pictures, I take some video, and I get in my car, and I head back. I'm going down the road. Well, off in the distance there was this oil derrick, you know, sitting there pumping, just chugging away. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna pull over on the side of the road, and I'll grab my camera, and I'll shoot some footage of that for B-roll. So I get out, I cut my car off, park, and I get on the hood of my car, and I'm sitting there filming, and I shot, you know, a minute or two worth of footage. Well, I open up my car door, and I set the camera on the front seat, and I got my keys in my hand, and I haven't put my keys in the ignition. I sit down, and I close the door, and from the back seat, right behind my head, I heard this hiss, this come out of the back seat.
Gives me such a
right into reaction. My ear.
Oh my God, dude.
And of course, the first thing I do is I turn around, and there's nothing back there. So what does the mind do?
You freak out.
You know, the mind starts going, okay, I got to put this in a box. I got to figure this out.
Right.
That didn't just happen. So the first thing I'm thinking is, I've got a flat tire. I've been ran over something, and now all of a sudden I've got air pouring.
Really funny.
I had that happen one time. So I mean, I literally had that happen.
I understand that your brain would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to hear that loud of a hiss.
So I get out. Yes, it was loud. Okay. And I bet that was really funny for your viewers sitting there watching me do that. But but you know, I walk around. There's nothing wrong with the tires. I get back in. I'm looking at the air conditioner unit. I haven't even put the keys in the ignition. I still got the keys in my hand. And I'm looking at the windows. I'm like, holy crap! There's a snake in here. So I'm digging around looking for a snake. There's no snake.
Right.
And about that time, something told me, Marcus, you need to start praying. You need to pray, and you need to pray right now. So I did. You know, I asked for protection, and I asked for, hey, God, I don't want nothing attaching itself to me or my vehicle or my equipment, because you can have that hitchhiker effect. We hear about that with Skinwalker
Yes.
Ranch.
Yes, we do.
That's kind of the saying now, the hitchhiker effect. And I drove down the road and I parked. I got way, way on down the road. I stopped and I prayed again. I'm like, I'm going to hit it with both barrels. And,
Yes, sir.
I went on home. Everything was fine. Nothing happened. But that made me realize you need to put everything that you need to get that in your toolbox. You can't just be a Bigfoot guy. You can't just be a UFO guy. You can't just be a this or you. If you go out there into the field, and this is just me. I'm not saying that to the other researchers. I mean, they know what they're doing and they have their thing, and that's fine. That's great. But I knew that Marcus, I couldn't look at the world anymore as I'm just going out here looking for Bigfoot. I got proven wrong real quick. It's not just Bigfoot out there. I mean, I have gone out looking for Bigfoot, had UFO experiences. I've gone out looking for, poltergeist type stuff,
Oh yeah.
have some other something weird happen. So I'm just like, you need to rethink this. And I did. And I feel better and much happier about, going out now. And I pray up before, during, and after. And I just think that's a smart thing to do. And, again, that's just my wheelhouse.
Yeah, man. Quite the strange place. Like I said, I went here to I went to an old hacienda, and then I went to an old church built by the when the Spanish first came here, and the gentleman I was with was telling me that they actually took rocks or stones from the pyramids that we're going to see after this to help build this church, right? So I go into this church, and he said, "Be careful, there. I think there's some bones in the floor here." And I go, "What?" So, and it's a dirt floor, so it's all, the ceiling's caved in, and there's this whole like domed area where the pulpit would be. I think that's the correct word, where the preacher would stand. And Catholic Church, of course. We're talking about the Spanish here, and there was. I actually literally walked up there, and you can see like these indentations where people were kind of or animals were digging around. And I believe, I'm not a archaeologist or anything like that, or a biologist, but there was some bones in the floor, in underneath where the preacher. And I asked him, how did that happen? And he said, well, if you're devout Christian, part of those churches back then, you can say, I want to be buried within the church, but they're still there. And then we go to the pyramids. Oh, wow. And he said, and you can see there was like I seen three of them. He said, see these ones are messed up, and you can see where the capstones were taken off. And he said, remember those 90-degree angles and those rocks I was showing you? Now let's go to the next pyramid, which was, I was telling you, 100 feet, just in the middle of the jungle. If you fly over, you could probably miss it with a helicopter. It's that dense out there. And you can see, oh, wow, yeah, you can see that those were the actual rocks that they took to make the church. And when you're on top of these structures out there, there's a certain feeling to, we're talking the Mayans, guys. These are, the civilization in Mesoamerica that really built up these areas. So, and when you go out there, I always just put good intentions. I'm not necessarily a Christian per se, but, it's part of my culture and where I grew up. So it's there with me. And, I always, I always say, with the most respect I can. And, if you're here, that's all cool. But you have to be careful when you're doing these things, guys. Marcus, where can people contact you if they're run across one of these things? Say James, he's out there at this area with, they found on. By the way, Tony Merkel's wife, I can't think of her name at the moment. Our love and our prayers go out to her, and hopefully she'll get over this awful sickness. Just a shout out to her. I can't think of her name right now. He says it all the time, but I can't think of it. And so where can people reach and come and talk with you or contact you if they feel they need to speak to somebody about their experiences, my friend?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, if it's, in regard to Dogman, you can reach me through the North American Dogman Project website, North American Dogman Project .com. We have a Facebook group that really seems to be growing and taking off. It's the North American Dogman Project Mississippi State chapter. It's open to the public. We're letting anybody come in that wants to come in, and we've got some really cool members, and Pamela helps out a bunch. She throws up a bunch of stuff, and James throws in a bunch of stuff, and
he's fantastic. Yes, I agree.
I need to put them on my payroll, because a lot of times they're throwing stuff up when I'm either in bed fighting sinus trouble, or I've had a crappy day at work or something. But
she won't let me put her on the payroll. I was like, whatever this picks up, and she's like, no, Tom, no, not happening. I enjoy this.
I don't think I could afford. I don't think I could afford her or James. I mean, they're both they're worth their weight in gold. But so you can come there and you can contact me there. I also have a website, www.unexplainedmississippi.com, and that also has a Facebook page to it. I got a YouTube channel, Unexplained Mississippi. A lot of my adventures and stuff is up there. You can go watch different videos and things up there. The black box that we talked about, I got a big video up about that, and the killer chupacabras. That thing. I did. I'm planning on doing a follow-up. I did one about Nephilim giants in Mississippi, and I look back on it. At the time, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, Marcus. You did really good. And I'm like, man, you were winging it. Seriously, So I'm planning on doing one that's a little bit more, maybe professional or whatever. But I had a lot of pastors comment and go, wow, that's really interesting. You talking about that. And, I took it as a compliment,
Yeah, absolutely.
And my email address is unexplainedms@gmail.com. So there's probably half a dozen I just named off ways to find me. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, man. Like always, so very much. Don't be a stranger. We'll keep in contact. We'll
back at you.
Yeah, buddy, no problem. Anytime. And I really appreciate it so much that you came on and shared those experiences and stories with us today, and gave us.
And that wasn't all of them.
Oh, I'm sure. I just got to make sure we got 15 minutes. I have the Magical Journey podcast comes on in 15 minutes. And I don't want to cut into his time, and so we gave us give myself an hour and a half. And you and I, we can just talk forever. And it's always a pleasure, Marcus. I really appreciate it. And
I'm honored.
I enjoy the rest of your day. Too. Yeah, same here, man. So, guys, thank you all for being in the chat. Yeah, you too, buddy. Like and subscribe to the channel. And remember, we are the eye. We are aware. Love you all. And have yourself one heck of a weekend. You have been watching the Eye of Jupiter podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of your favorite interviews. And remember, we are the Eye. We are aware.